Hi guys and welcome to Crazy Pepper Revenge. This channel is all about crazy true stories, stuff that happens in real life when things get a little bit messy, people dealing with drama, cheating, lies, breakups, and even revenge. Some stories are wild, some are emotional, but all of them will keep you watching. If you like real talk and real situations, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stick around. This is Crazy Pepper Revenge, where the stories get spicy.
You want to live like cheating means nothing? Then live with the consequences.
I'm Adam, 32, been married to Claire for 14 years since we were teenagers. We have two kids, Sarah, 12, and Jake, 10. I'm a plumber who also does maintenance at the local school district. Claire works for Liberty Insurance doing whatever insurance people do. Important detail that becomes crucial later. I got a vasectomy after Jake was born because Claire had bad reactions to birth control pills, so we haven't needed protection in literally years. About 6 months ago, I started noticing changes in Claire that made my skin crawl. The woman who used to be bright and cheerful, whose enthusiasm could fill any room, suddenly became cold and distant. She'd come home late from these insurance conferences and work seminars, acting completely different, always checking her phone with this satisfied little smirk I'd never seen before. She'd disappear to take calls, claiming it was work stuff, but something felt off. Claire's always been gorgeous, the kind of curves that turned my head when we were teenagers, long brown hair that catches sunlight like bronze. But now she carried herself differently, more arrogant, like she thought she deserved better than what she had at home. She started criticizing everything, my job, my clothes, how I never asked about her professional development. The disrespect was subtle but constant, eating away at me. The breaking point came when she announced another 3-day insurance conference in Baltimore at the Marriott. Something in my gut screamed that this was complete BS. I'd been tossing and turning for months, imagining every horrible scenario. I decided I needed to know the truth, one way or another. So I called in sick, dropped the kids at my parents', and drove 2 hours straight down I-95 to Baltimore. My hands were shaking the entire drive. I kept telling myself I was just going to surprise her with a nice dinner, but we both know that was a lie. I was going to catch her red-handed. The Marriott was exactly what you'd expect. Gleaming lobby, polished floors, the kind of place that charges too much for everything. I walked up to the front desk with complete confidence and told the clerk I was there to see my wife Claire Taylor in room 214, that she'd left a key for me. The kid didn't even hesitate, just slid a key card across the counter with a smile. My heart was pounding as I took the elevator to the second floor. I stood outside room 214 for what felt like forever before sliding that key into the lock. The door beeped green and I opened it slow and quiet, expecting to find her with some guy. Instead, Claire was sitting at the desk going through paperwork. She turned around, eyes wide with genuine surprise. "Adam, you scared me." I forced a grin and said I figured I'd surprise her, brought my suit so we could go out for dinner. For a split second, I thought I saw guilt flash across her face. Then she lit up with this bright smile, came over and kissed me like nothing was wrong. She seemed actually relieved to see me, suggested I stay the night. Maybe I was just paranoid after all. She went to take a shower, humming like she didn't have a care in the world. I kicked off my shoes and looked around the room. Everything seemed normal, no signs of another person, no men's clothes or cologne. But I couldn't let it go. On the dresser, I spotted her big toiletry bag. I told myself I was looking for aspirin, but that was BS. I was looking for evidence. When I unzipped it, I found the usual stuff: makeup, hairpins, small comb. Then I saw them, a pack of 6 rubbers, brand new. My heart turned to ice. After Jake was born and Claire couldn't handle birth control pills, I got a vasectomy. We haven't needed protection in over a decade. There was literally only one reason for her to have these, and it wasn't for me. This is where I probably crossed a line, but I was seeing pure red. I found a safety pin in her makeup bag and methodically poked tiny holes in every single rubber, right through the center. Then I placed them back exactly where I found them. Was it rational? Hell no. But it felt like the only power I had in that moment. I called my buddy Rob, who's loyal enough to bury a body if I asked. Told him to call me in an hour with some emergency that would drag me back home. Burst pipe at the school, something urgent I couldn't ignore. He agreed, no questions asked. We had dinner at the hotel restaurant, made small talk about the kids and bills. She was in a great mood, almost gloating about how I never ask about her conferences. Right on cue, Rob called. I stepped away, had a quick conversation about the emergency, then came back looking distressed. Claire seemed annoyed but didn't fight it when I said I had to leave. As we're heading back to her room, the elevator opens, and this guy steps out. Tall, handsome, expensive watch, perfect hair, everything about him screamed success. He greets Claire like they're old friends, then extends his hand to me. "You must be Adam. I'm Tom Bradley. I work with your wife." The way Claire's eyes lit up when she saw him told me everything I needed to know. This was him, the fool who was destroying my marriage. I wanted to slam him against the wall right there, but I forced a handshake and kept my cool. That Saturday was Liberty Insurance's annual family picnic. They rent out this huge park with carnival rides, cotton candy, the whole deal. Sarah and Jake were excited. I was dreading it, knowing I'd have to see Tom swagger around. Claire spent forever getting ready. Tight V-neck blouse, skinny jeans, extra makeup. She was practically preening in the mirror. At the picnic, she immediately got swallowed up by coworkers, laughing too loudly and throwing her hair around dramatically. That's when this gorgeous woman approached me. Auburn hair, blue eyes, crisp white blouse. "You're Claire's husband, right?" "I'm Janet Bradley, Tom's wife." My stomach dropped. This was the wife of the man I suspected was sleeping with my wife. We made small talk, but then she lowered her voice. "Look, I know about Claire and Tom. I've known for a couple of months. I've tried everything to get Tom to stop. I even hired a private investigator." She had proof. Photos, recordings, enough for divorce court. She wanted to know if I'd share resources and evidence. I said yes without hesitation. We agreed to meet the next day while Tom was golfing. Janet's house was in this nice neighborhood with well-kept lawns. Her den had a computer monitor showing a cheap motel room. Janet explained her PI had set up cameras in the room Tom booked every time he went golfing. She pulled out photos. Claire and Tom entering motels, coming out of restaurants, kissing in parking garages. Phone logs, audio recordings, everything needed to destroy them. Looking at those photos made me physically sick, but I was also grateful. For months, I'd felt this gnawing dread without proof. Then the monitor flickered. The motel door opened and in walked Tom, wearing a golf polo. Right behind him was Claire, hair pinned up, blouse barely buttoned. They immediately started tearing at each other's clothes. The footage was crystal clear. I watched for maybe 2 minutes before I couldn't take any more. Over the following weeks, I kept sabotaging fresh rubbers Claire would restock. Meanwhile, she grew more arrogant by the day, accusing me of being jealous and insecure when I suggested she quit Liberty Insurance. Her voice was laced with pure scorn whenever I brought up Tom. Then Claire announced she was taking time off to visit her sister Nancy for a week. Something felt wrong, so I started digging. Found receipts from the family planning center in her purse. I drove there and somehow bluffed my way into signing a consent form by pretending to be a supportive husband. Friday, 11 a.m. appointment. She was pregnant and planning in termination. My sabotage had worked. She was pregnant, probably with Tom's kid, and was about to quietly handle it. I felt shock, anger, and savage triumph all at once. I drove 3 hours to Nancy's house where Claire was staying. She was pissed I showed up uninvited. When Nancy's husband, Brad, tried taking me fishing to get me out of the way, I refused. Just stood there with arms crossed. I spent the entire day blocking their attempts to leave, shutting off Claire's phone when she wasn't looking, making it impossible for them to get to that appointment. That evening, I cornered Claire in Nancy's kitchen. The overhead light cast sharp shadows as I calmly slid divorce papers across the table. She said I couldn't divorce her for not quitting her job. "Infidelity is grounds," I said softly, pulling out a stack of photos and fanning them across the table. Claire in Tom's arms, exiting motels half-dressed. She snapped, "You fool! You've been spying on me." She tried to snatch the photos, but I grabbed her wrist. "How else was I supposed to get the truth? You've made a fool of me for months." Then I dropped the nuclear bomb. "I know you're pregnant. Friday, 11 a.m., Family Planning Center. Ring a bell?" Her scream tore through the kitchen. I pulled the safety pin from my pocket and placed it on the table. "I've been poking holes in your rubbers for 2 months, Claire. You went through nearly 50 of them in recent weeks. Now you're pregnant with Tom's child." She completely broke down, tears streaming. Nancy wrapped her arms around Claire as both sisters sobbed. I told her I'd changed the locks, moved her stuff out, had half our account money for her. The kids would stay with me. She could see them once a week if she signed an admission of guilt about the affair. The aftermath was absolutely beautiful. Within weeks, Liberty Insurance fired both Claire and Tom after office gossip spread, and Janet threatened legal action. Janet's divorce went through quickly. She got the house, investments, massive alimony. Tom tried to fight, but her legal team destroyed him. My divorce finalized 4 months later. Claire barely fought it. She knew she'd lose with all the evidence. She moved to Omaha with Tom, who'd found some new job. But here's the best part. Tom disappeared shortly after they moved, just vanished. Rumor was he got mugged outside a bar, ended up with broken ribs, and lost a testicle. Claire found herself completely abandoned and had to crawl back to Nancy's. Meanwhile, Janet and I started spending real time together. We were careful not to rush anything romantic, but we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. My kids absolutely adored her koi ponds. 3 months later, we were discussing marriage. Janet sold her house and bought us a gorgeous 6-bedroom villa with a pool. She'd even tracked down a Jaguar XK 140 identical to one Claire had forced me to sell years ago. When I saw that car in our garage, I felt happiness I thought was gone forever. Last I heard, Claire and Nancy are struggling financially in Nancy's cramped place. Nancy's husband also left her. Now both sisters live together, apparently fighting constantly and blaming each other for their situations. Claire tried reaching out months later, desperately wanting to see the kids. When I called back, I told her she'd need to sign a full admission of guilt before we'd discuss supervised visits. Her pleas turned to curses when I refused to budge. I hung up and blocked her number permanently. Janet and I got married in a small winter ceremony with our kids by our side. We're planning trips to Japan to visit koi farms and living in this beautiful villa that feels like a dream. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far with the rubber sabotage. But then I remember how Claire looked at me with such contempt while betraying our family. She made her choices. I just made sure there were real consequences. The best revenge isn't getting mad. It's exposing the truth, building a better life, and watching your enemies destroy themselves through their own arrogance.